Hello. Please hit the like and the subscribe button. I appreciate y'all see the moniker. Y'all see the thumbnail. This is about El Sayed of Michigan. They can't just disagree with him. They need y'all to fear him. Abdul El Sayed won the Democratic primary in Michigan. And Republicans wasted absolutely no time telling America what the real emergency is. Apparently, it ain't groceries. Apparently, it ain't healthcare or housing or anything like that, or gas. It's Abdul. Because this man won a primary and suddenly Republicans started talking like Michigan had accidentally elected the final boss of America, or a terrorist. And that's what I want to talk about, because this is not simply about Republicans criticizing a Democratic candidate. That's normal. Mike Rogers should criticize Abdul El Sayed. El Sayed should criticize Mike Rogers. That's called an election. What I'm watching is something different. They're trying to make Abdul scary. Not simply wrong, dangerous, radical, anti-American, communist, Islamic, a threat. And once politicians convince you somebody's a threat, they don't have to spend nearly as much time explaining why their own policies don't even work and don't even matter, honey. They just have to keep you afraid, which is what they've been doing about the immigrant population since Donald Trump got back in office. Play this clip.
They hate Jews, they hate Christians, they hate capitalism, they hate America. All of this is coming together in a way that is really a toxic stew.
Well, damn. That escalated quickly, didn't it? Quick, off of his win in Michigan. Abdul won that Senate primary, and apparently Christmas immediately required federal protection. This is what I mean. You could attack El Sayed on healthcare. He's a Medicare for all guy. Attack it. You could attack him on immigration. He's called for abolishing ICE. Have that argument. Have that fight. You could attack his position on Gaza, campaign finance, taxes, whatever you want. Those are legitimate political disagreements. But I disagree with Abdul El Sayed. Doesn't create quite the same emotional reaction as Abdul is an Islamist. Abdul is an extremist. It don't hit the same, does it? And culture war politics depends on the emotional reaction. And Republicans are very good at that. They've manipulated you all of your life through these cultural politics. We can hear that when people come up with trans and gay and all this other kind of garbage, instead of wondering why our country is going down the shitter because of the policies of the Republican. They don't want to face that. They don't want to tell you why we're having problems with our economy because of them. All right? They want you to be afraid of Abdul. Immigration becomes they're invading your community. That's what they want to say. DEI becomes they're taking something away from you. All of this started to happen under Donald Trump, the Republican president. Transgender politics become they're coming for your kids. They want to cut your kids up. And now with Sayed, his Muslim identity gives them another ingredient. His name sounds unfamiliar to some voters. His religion is unfamiliar to some voters. So instead of merely saying, this progressive Democrat has policies we oppose, you can create something much more powerful by saying suspicion. Republicans want to draw suspicion on Abdul. Is he really like us? Does he believe what we believe? This is the same thing they did to Obama and try to make him the spooky boogeyman. Can we trust him? Is he dangerous? And once those questions got planted, the campaign ain't entirely about policy anymore. It's about identity. That's what they want to do with the El Sayed.
To campaign with one of the most influential figures on the American left, Hassan Piker.
And Sayed, you also have somebody, as you've talked about this evening, Sean, who campaigned, who embraced, who courted the endorsement of this execrable, heinous, deplorable, monstrous Hassan Piker. somebody who has celebrated assassination culture, and somebody who has said that America deserved 9/11. Sean, you're from New York. How much time have you spent, Sean, with the victims and the families, the police officers, the firefighters after 9/11?
A lot.
To have someone running for Senate who's going to associate with that kind of evil?
You see how goofy I find these people? These are the people that want to give the January 6 people money. Those January 6 people attacked policemen, attacked American citizens, and then they get their goofy ass on here talking about El Said. That's wild. There it is, y'all. We added Hassan Piker, another boogeyman. And let me make something very clear, because I don't need to play games with the facts. Hassan Piker really did make that infamous comment about America deserving 9/11. He did that. I think it was a terrible statement, a terrible take. El Said himself has rejected that statement. So now here's my question. When did Hassan Piker become the Democratic nominee for Senate in Michigan? Because I thought the ballot box said Abdul Said. Apparently Hassan is now his running mate, campaign manager, next of kin, emergency contact. This is guilt by association, okay? And associations are fair game to question. El Said campaigns with Hassan Piker. Ask him why. Ask what they agreed about. Ask what they disagree about. Ask El Said whether he condemns something Hassan said. That's fair. But after El Said tells you, no, I don't believe America deserved 9/11, Hassan's statement doesn't magically become Abdul's statement. At some point, you have to come back to the actual candidate, okay? What about Abdul? What did he say? What does he believe? What does he propose to do as a senator? Because if we're going to make politicians responsible for every terrible statement everybody made, somebody who appeared with them, then Washington is about to get real ugly up in this mug. Nobody's going to have no friends. Nobody is going to have any friends left.
Democratic coalition, which is self-hating white liberals united to people who just came to the country for the first time and don't actually have the sense of appreciation for it that they should. Those are the people who are voting for Al Sayed.
Is that Peter Thiel's boy with that Ohio charisma he's got? That guy. I think we've had enough of him. The last thing that he said that made any sense was hillbilly elegy, after he said that Donald Trump had no business being president of anything. That was the last time he made sense, and then he decided to suck up to power, just like Mike Rogers has. For the 14 years he was serving in Congress, he took over $1 million from the pharmaceutical industry. He voted 19 times to raise prescription drug prices. And then he helped to architect the legislation that kicked off the opioid epidemic, killing nearly 600,000 people. Why? For money and power. But that's what that party's about. We're trying to get money out of politics to put money in your pocket past Medicare for All, which of course are things that people like Ohio J.D. Vance and Mike Rogers have no clue about, because they've always been in it for themselves rather than for the public.
And this is where the strategy becomes obvious to me. The Republican argument is not merely we think Abdul is too progressive. They're trying to construct an entire character, dangerous, radical, foreign, un-American. Somebody whose presence in the United States Senate should frighten you. And Donald Trump has joined in. Since El Said won, Trump and his allies have described him as a radical socialist and a communist, and the White House has gone as far as calling his agenda a direct threat to America. A direct threat to America, y'all. Baby, this man is running for one Senate seat from Michigan. They're talking about him like NORAD picked him up on a radar. And Trump recently posted a picture contrasting himself and Melania with Abdul and his wife under the words, two different, very different Americans, while emphasizing El Sayed's full Muslim name. Now, come on, what exactly are we supposed to notice in those pictures? Because it ain't their healthcare plan. That's culture politics. You don't necessarily tell voters, don't vote for this man's healthcare proposal. You tell them, look at him, he's different from you. And you let the audience fill in the rest. That's why El Sayed's name itself has become part of the political conversation. I can't pronounce that. Abdul Muhammad El Sayed. That's his name. And if your strongest argument against somebody running for the United States Senate is that his name sounds too Muslim, I think you may need another meeting with the campaign staff, because eventually Michigan voters are going to ask, what is Mike Rogers going to do about healthcare, grocery bill, housing, or the state of Michigan, period? You cannot feed a family with somebody else's middle name. Y'all need to stop it.
President Trump last night, he posted on social media a photograph of him and First Lady Melania Trump in formal attire. Next to a photograph of you and your wife. You appear to be in a restaurant booth or something. Your wife is a psychiatrist. She's wearing a hijab. The caption was two very different Americas. What was your response when you saw that?
Yeah, he's right. One in which your overlords are two people who don't like each other but joint in the interest of making billions of dollars off of you, or two people who genuinely love each other, enjoyed some pancakes together, want to come together to build the kind of America where they can raise a family and know that that family is going to have the good things. So yes, you got two different visions of America. Donald Trump's vision is the one you're living in right now. Can you afford your gas? Can you afford your groceries? Do you believe when you look your kids in the eye that they're going to have a better future than you did? And Sarah and I are running because when we look our daughters in the eye, Ameni and Sirine, we want them to believe that they're every bit as able to have a better future than the one that they could have had under the Trump administration, that they can live together with their sisters and their brothers in America in a way where they lock arms to build the good things that they deserve together, where they know they'll have the health care that they need and good jobs, and that they don't have to go 15 minutes and know that there are kids who live 15 minutes away whose lives are very, very different than theirs because we've been for far too long okay with a level of inequality in this country. I want them to live in an America where they can breathe clean air and drink clean water. And actually, Sarah and I like each other. I don't know about the First Lady and the President, but from what I've heard, it's a bit of a rocky road.
And that was Abdul El Sayed, the Michigan candidate for Senate. Here he comes. Here he comes.